Hello and welcome to my blog to the wonderful world of the interweb, Sammy Says. We're here about the here and now of computer games, and I'll be chatting about different topics that have me thinking, I wonder. So, to start us off, the first topic that I thought we should chat about is point and click games. Are they undiscovered gems? Or are they boring, drawn-out storytelling games? So, back in the day, I couldn't stand point-and-click games. I thought there was no action, and I was literally just moving an arrow from left to right. There was no QTE, there was no actual moving of your character. It was just you, a mouse, and an arrow. That was until I played one game. And the first one on my list is this beauty here, Broken Sword 2, The Smoking Mirror. Now, I didn't play it on PlayStation straight away. I actually played it on PC. So I got the proper version of the game, the one where the singers in Coromante sing different songs and it's not just the same monotonous tune humming in the background. And to be fair, the graphics on the PC were crisper than that of the PlayStation. Also, the loading screens weren't as drawn out. But yes, I thought, I've got it on PC, let's give it a go. The thing that got my interest, basically, was the story and the comical character of George Stobart. That when you show certain items to different characters, you get different responses. Like there's an instant where you meet up with Andre Lobino just as you escape Ubier's house. And if you've done the Ubier's house properly and followed the guide which was in the manual, you would have picked up a tequila worm. Now, you need this worm later on in the game, which I won't give you any spoilers or anything, but yeah, if you don't have that later on in the game, you might have to do some thinking for yourself. So, when you show this worm to Lobino, who is obviously a love rival for Nico, who is the love interest in Broken Sword 1, and he says something along the lines of, "Take a look at this, Andre. What is this?" And he's like, "I don't know. I'll give you a clue. It's got more backbone than you." And it's just little things like that that just make this game just so comically spectacular. I mean, it kept me intrigued, at least, to see to the end of the game and make me want to play the first one, which was Shadow of the Templars. And, of course, I got that one and it was just as good. I mean, putting on red noses and showing them to different characters and say, "Take a look at this red nose, Nico. What's inside there? It's probably the contents of somebody's nose." And it's just, that was it. I was hooked on point and click games. Because even though there's not much, you know, you're not moving your character from pillar to post, jumping left and right, you know, you still got to think about these games because you're literally just an arrow. And if you don't click in the right way, then obviously your character dies. And believe me, it's easy to die in that sort of game. And if you mess up at a certain point in the jungle with a certain hog, yeah, pre-prepared, you may have, hopefully you saved it beforehand, because if not, you're screwed. So, that was Broken Sword, which led me to the next genre of point and click game that I absolutely adore. Once again, it was on the PC, and it was the wonderful world of Monkey Island. Now, the first one that I ever played was The Curse of Monkey Island. So it was set after the second one, which would have been LeChuck's Revenge. Now, obviously, I didn't play the original two because we didn't have the system that it was on. We had the Commodore 64 and the Atari 2600 and the Spectrum Sinclair, but we never came across Monkey Island. So I wasn't introduced to it until the age of about 10, 11, maybe a little bit later. And yes, so once we played that, it was just pure genius in a point and click game. So obviously the story behind The Curse of Monkey Island, you play as the swashbuckling hero Guybrush Threepwood in pursuit of a giant diamond ring. Wow, I say in pursuit, practically stumbled across it, which he gives to his girlfriend Elaine Marley and transforms her into a gold statue. So ensues the comic adventure of battling through grueling banjo dueling contests, infecting people's combs with lice so you can get a giant pair of scissors, or just becoming covered in feathers and tar and becoming El Pueblo Diablo. The thing with LucasArts is it's just like the game Grim Fandango, which was a game I discovered a few months back on the PS4 store. Is it likes to break the third wall with that sort of game. It's when you're walking through the jungle and you come across the phone and you're ringing the LucasArts helpline with the game, and then you've got the bit where you've got a dialogue in Curse of Monkey Island, and you say to LeChuck, "You can't kill me," and he says, "Well, why can't I kill you? If you kill me, there's basically not going to be any more sequels, no more work for you." And it's just little things like that which just make the game playable, and you just want to go back to have a different set of dialogue to play the game a different way. So yeah, I was greatly impressed, and the games have evolved into 3D models. So you've got, like, obviously the remastered version of Monkey Island 1 and 2, and then The Secret of Monkey Island on PS2. The same with Broken Sword, you've got the Sleeping Dragon. And even though they hold their charm, they're not just as good as the 2D versions, in my opinion. But then again, there's people who don't even like point-and-click games. Which brings me on to my next point. Now, Broken Sword and Monkey Island are, in a sense, yeah, they're comical genius point-and-click games. And then we come on to different point-and-click games. Like this monstrosity I had the, I want to say, privilege of playing. Chronicles of the Sword on PS1. A point-and-click adventure set in the times of Camelot and King Arthur. Now you think, dragons and mythical creatures and magic and things like that, and a good basis for a game. Nah. It's glitchy as hell, the loading screens are very slow, and the dialogue, the voice acting for it is atrocious. The first few minutes of the intro movie is like you're being ordained as a knight, and then all you hear in the background is, "The priest! Someone's killed the priest!" in its slow, glitchy mouth form. And it's just terrible. I mean, not even the character representation is correct. It's like, if you used to think of Merlin the Wizard, you would think of a guy with a long beard, pointy hat and a stick, maybe, but some old English bloke. Not in Chronicles of the Sword. It's a big burly guy with a headband, and he sounds like a rip-off actor from Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're expecting him to go, "Oh, I see you need my magic spells." It's terrible. It's an absolute terrible game. It's on 2 discs as well, so once you've grueled through that first disc, you've got another disc to plunder through. The good thing with the second disc is, though, you can't actually die, so you are granted a quick and short game. There is a combat mode, but it's so slow, you're just begging to be hit, so you don't have to switch the machine off yourself. It's just one of those games that you really, really don't need to play. And having said that, I have played it, I did buy it, and it was purely for nostalgia reasons from when we first had the PlayStation and my parents had the game. So I would say that's the best and the worst of point and click games. There are a couple of different games that a lot of you may not have played, which are games, if you ever get a chance to play them, they are a must. On the low end of the scale, I only say it's on the low end of the scale. For me, it's one of my favourite games. But a lot of people will probably say no due to the bad voice acting, the slow cinema film mode, and the movement is very, very sketchy. Of course, I'm talking about Clock Tower on the PS1, set in Norway. There was a original one that was out on the SNES, I believe. Never had the privilege to play it, but it looked a lot darker than the second one, which is now the first one on the PlayStation 1. And it basically tells the story of Scissorman, who is a murderer that goes around wielding a giant pair of scissors. Good concept. Terrible voice acting. Yeah, not the best graphics. And it's a little bit like Resident Evil, where they get their dialogue mixed up. Like the whole bit where in Resident Evil you're playing as Chris and you go into the room where you have to play the Moonlight Sonata and Rebecca goes, "It's me, Chris." "Is that you, Rebecca?" Yeah. Same sort of voice acting in Clock Tower. But having said that, it was a game that I couldn't get enough of, purely because the murderer could pop up anywhere, spontaneously, or if you started to hear the music creep up in the background, then you knew he was after you. And it was just fun, getting your friends over, and you knew if you clicked on that third locker in the university, he was about to jump out just to scare your friends. So it's not the best graphic game that's been put together, but it's certainly one of the most entertaining. And the other one, which I will finish off with, is a cinematographic point and click game. Back on the PC, back when games had live actors and were quite popular at the time, we had a point and click game called Black Dahlia, which was loosely based around the murder of Elizabeth Short, including Torso Killer. Had actors such as Dennis Hopper, and I'll tell you what, that game was a pain in the ass. Wouldn't have completed it if we didn't have the guide, because I'll tell you one thing, putting that Dahlia together is near impossible, and even the guide said it was. So it's an 8-disc long game. For PC, I believe it was Windows 98 I played it on. So we're talking a good 20 years ago. Yeah, it's kind of showing my age now. But it was just, the puzzles were so complex. I mean, to start off with, you're fine. Yeah, I know how to do this. I know how to play this game. And you need to make sure you speak to the right people to get the right information. And the thing where it was PC is if you didn't type in the right thing, then you didn't progress. For example, there's a bit where you have to ring up a telephone line and ask for a Louis Fishnerwold or Fishetnerwold, whichever surname he decides to go by. And if you don't type it in right, then the guy at the other end says, "Well, I'm sorry, there's nobody here at this name." If you do, then fine, you can progress with the story. Bit gruesome in some places, so not recommended for the younger player, but it's one hell of a game. And there'll always be one bit in that game which gets on my wick, because it's glitchy as hell. Now, I don't know if it was just my copy or it was the running time of my PC, but there's a bit where you have to go to a shipping area to find a manifest of where a crate has gone. And this clerk comes out and he's like, "Yes," and I'll tell you what, they're two of the most campus old men you could ever see. But you send it off and you go back, and when he hasn't processed the delivery, all you get is this old queen stood there with his red blazer going, "I am sorry, sir, your package is not yet cleared through our system." Try getting that like 20 times every time you click on the frickin' desk. You do everything, you talk to everybody, and yet your package is still not cleared for our system. Now, apparently it's something to do with the way you progress up to that point and how you talk to different people. But when you've heard it for like the 50th time in a row, you don't really want to hear it again, so the PC decides to get turned off. So yeah, point and click games. Dumb storytelling games, or actually games that we tend to look over purely because we're not moving a figure and making them jump over caverns or shooting people. We are literally putting the character's life at the end of a click. So, I hope you've enjoyed this rambling. It's first time doing any sort of blog or video or anything like this. But we do have a few topics coming up. I just thought I'd start off with the easiest one, which was point and click games, because it's something I never used to like and I ended up liking. So a little bit like PlayStation and Xbox, really. So we've done point and click. Any ideas what we should do next? We've got either dance games or singing games. Exactly. I haven't got a lot of categories. But there is one that I would like to do a talk about. And gay characters in computer games. Why aren't there more? So we'll be talking about the likes of, obviously, Chloe and Max in Life is Strange, Ellie from The Last of Us, and not so well-known characters, Hannah and Rain from Fear Effect 2. So, we've got characters like that, and we've also got the optional characters, which are not defined in the games, such as Fable 2 and 3, and Saints Row. So, which one do we go for? Thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you again soon. Take it easy.